booties for black girl nerds.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Our pleasure, yeah.
So, Naomi, I'm going to start with you. Both you and Natalie serve as executive producers on this film, and the role of an EP, it varies from project to project. So, can you share specifically what your duties were as it related to this film? Uh-oh, is my connection unstable?
No, I had the question, so don't worry. Yeah, in terms of being executive producers, I think the idea behind giving us those titles and roles was really so that we, should there have been any issues in terms of wanting to change the script in any way, or anything on set that made us feel uncomfortable, or we would have had the power to exercise that. But to be honest, everything was really smooth sailing, and there weren't any, I don't think there was anything really, apart from maybe a few words like a removal of an and here or an apostrophe here or what have you, tiny, tiny little things. There wasn't really anything that really needed to be changed. So I can't say that I really exercised the role of an executive producer, but it was wonderful to have that title.
Indeed. I just love seeing your names up there. So I thought that was really cool that both of you are starring in EPs on the film as well. Natalie, over to you. Carla was a very intriguing character. She's dealing with the physicality of a pregnancy, as well as the emotional weight of what's happening to her with this deceptive plot that Heather wants her to carry out. So, what was more challenging for you, the physical part of the performance or the emotional weight of the performance?
I mean, for any woman that's been pregnant, you know that the two are intertwined.
Facts.
Yeah. I think, I've been pregnant. So when I was trying to recreate that, and she's like 7 months or whatever. I mean, she's heavy, she's towards the end, and the
Yeah.
hormonal the hormones that are going through you at that moment, and you're just that little bit more unstable, aren't you? Really, you're a little bit more susceptible to um the being thrown off kilter. And my God, does Heather throw her off kilter? So yeah, I mean, but it's a pertinent question insofar as for me, this role was very much an outside in role, because you can't get away from the fact that she's going to walk a certain way, feel a certain way at that time. And that is fun. I don't know if fun's the right word, but that's what gave me a hook and really, made the role feel so rewarding in a different way, because I like, putting a big heavy pregnancy bump on at 5 a.m. is like, on certain mornings you're like, oh, here we go. So, it gets to the point where it's no acting required, when your back starts to ache. It just added to the texture of the piece, and it was very clever of Morgan. I think it's very clever of the playwright to make her pregnant like that, because there's innately a vulnerability to Carla that maybe otherwise she wouldn't have let in ordinarily, but pregnancy does that to a woman, so
Yeah, all them hormones, I'm sure, was probably triggering too for the character. And it was so interesting to just see that this woman so far into her pregnancy interested in wanting to carry out this very deceptive task.
yeah,
So that
desperation, financial desperation. Both the characters are desperate in different ways.
indeed they are. Yeah. Naomi, back to you. What I found really compelling about Heather's story is that we get an origin story that really develops into the kind of person she becomes as an adult. So, Heather, she pretty much kind of holds on to her past, is what I got from watching this film. Why do you think that some people let go of their past, and then people like Heather can't seem to really break away from it?
I think that's a really big question. I wish I knew the answer to that. I think fundamentally that we are innately very different people. Like, people are just born with different characteristics in terms of how they navigate life, right? And some people navigate life very lightly and they're very present oriented, and some people naturally are just kind of heavy and are backward looking. And Heather just happens to be one of those people. And also because I think for Heather, the weight of that trauma is something that I'm sure she tried therapy and all kinds of other ways to relieve herself of it, but she just couldn't find a way out. And so it keeps on being the thing that is, she has this wound, and it's almost like it keeps on being reopened, rebruised, and she just doesn't know how to get rid of this pain without confronting Carla and reaching out to this person in the past that she thinks is responsible for her pain.
It's so interesting how certain moments in our lives trigger the trajectory of where our journeys go from, young kids or teenagers into adults. And we see how that thread plays out in the Wasp. And it's very compelling to watch. So very interesting character development for Heather that I really enjoyed. Natalie, back to you. Do you find that these women have more in common with one another than we're led to believe? And is it good that they have more in common, or is it evil that they have more in common?
I mean, what they have in common is they've both been trauma. They've both suffered unfair trauma at a young age, and they've both been corrupted by children are innocent, and it's the great tragedy of life that we inflict pain and pain and hurt on children as young as we do. And both of these women, ultimately have been betrayed by other factors in life and by each other. And Naomie always makes a very good point that your first love, your first female friendship is as intense an experience, as defining an experience as your first love, truly. And I think these women have been heartbroken by each other. Their hearts have been broken at different points, and they're both reeling from that. So sorry, I've wandered off on a tangent. Bring me
No, you
back.
didn't.
Or,
Those are good. That's good nuggets of information of what we get to know about these women as characters, and really the performances that you guys play throughout this story. So
you said
I
what they've
really
got in common. I mean, my character says it at the end. I found myself again. What do they have in common? My character says at the end, not giving stuff away, but she's like, you're not special. Yeah, everyone has this. Everyone has pain. Everyone has hurt. It's a choice. It's a choice what you do with it. And I mean, my God, like every single member of the audience is going to immediately go in their head to what their thing is, because we all have that thing, what that thing is. Some people have more than one, but everyone's got at least one. So, and that's great drama. That's great drama when you hold the mirror up, so.
Yeah, absolutely. This movie just had me dialed in from beginning to end. So it was very, very fascinating to see the way these women's lives play out. Naomie, back to you. As an actor, do you completely separate yourself from your characters, or do you look for something in them that parallels your own personality so that you can kind of get into the psyche of that character and identify with them more?
So I think that whenever you're playing anyone, you have to fall in love with them, and deeply, deeply connect with them. And so there's no way of like keeping that separation. Otherwise, you just won't have enough empathy to be able to fully inhabit who they are. And for me, my access point from reading the script initially and throughout was the fact that Heather was bullied at school, and I was also bullied at school. And I was really traumatized by being bullied. And I think it definitely has had a lasting legacy in terms of the way that I operate in life. And so I could really, really empathize with Heather. Of course, hers is far more extreme than mine. I'm not bringing anybody from my past and asking them to do weird and wonderful things. But I really get that. And that was one of the things that really drew me to this project, because I thought it's very rare to have bullying explored in this way, where we really get to see what happens as a child continues to play out as an adult if you don't find ways of dealing with that trauma. So yeah, I definitely connected and identified with Heather.
Yeah, that's what I loved seeing about Heather's development, that we get to see that origin story and that seed of her formative years and what that ended up being as an adult and how that really impacted her significantly as an adult. So Natalie, I do have to ask this question because we here at Black Girl Nerd are huge fans of Game of Thrones, and Margaery Tyrell played the game perfectly in that series. If HBO ever offered you the opportunity to play another character within the George R.R. Martin universe, is that something you'd be interested in?
Well, playing another character, playing a new character.
Yeah, playing a new character. Yeah. Because we've got Justin Hall that's played two characters from Game of Thrones, and now he's in House of the Dragon. So.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, send me the script, love. Cool. Yeah. It's like, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, Margaery Tyrell is relevant to this interview because it was because of playing Margaery Tyrell that I learned that you can't play two things at once. And that's something that I said to Naomie when she was busy with Heather. It's kind of like, because you can play one thing in one scene and play another thing in the other scene. You have to play the truth in both moments. And if they contradict, it like almost all the better, so much the better. And like, so like my time on GOT taught me that. Just be present in the moment. And if it contradicts in a scene later, it doesn't matter, let that go. And it creates this weird alchemy for the characterization, which, you know, is magnetic in Naomie's performance in Wasp, in the same way that I tried with Margaery.
Well, I mean, these women are very strategic in their methods and their thinking, and that also parallels with your character on Game of Thrones, and they are giving me my time. So Natalie, Naomie, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to Black Girl Nerds. I really enjoyed this film. It really just, again, I was leaned in from the very beginning until the end, and I can't wait for everybody else to see it. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thanks for enjoying it. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. You guys take care.
Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds.